Hey, it's Adam Grant from Work Life, a podcast from TED. This episode is brought to you by Freshworks. Freshworks believes that complexity is the enemy of efficiency. So stop wrestling with bloated, expensive service software that takes forever to implement an update, where ROI is someday, not today. You've been overcharged and underserved for way too long. Uncomplicate with Freshservice for IT and Freshdesk for customer support. And with Freshworks AI-assisted service software, you'll work smarter, not harder. Freshworks uncomplicates. Learn more at freshworks.com.
Banking with Capital One helps you keep more money in your wallet with no fees or minimums on checking accounts and no overdraft fees. Just ask the Capital One bank guy. It's pretty much all he talks about, in a good way. He'd also tell you that this podcast is his favorite podcast, too. Aw, really? Thanks, Capital One bank guy. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Most people overpay for car insurance, not because they're careless, but because switching feels like too much hassle. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/ACAST today.
Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, September 12th, 2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on the context of those stories, and help each other understand.
Today, OpenAI solidifies its plan to restructure the company, and Microsoft is along for the ride.
I'm Jason Howell.
I'm Huyen.
We're going to start with what you need to know with the big story. All right, and we do have a little bit of Tom Merritt coming in here because OpenAI and Microsoft have officially reached a deal to let OpenAI restructure, which is something we've been talking about for quite a while. It's kind of been in the pipeline. Why does Microsoft have a say in all this? You may be asking yourself. Why does OpenAI want to restructure? Well, Tom Merritt, like I said, he recorded a bit of explanation of the backstory to help us understand.
Okay, so OpenAI's corporate structure is a bit confusing if you don't follow it closely. OpenAI itself is two companies. It's a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2015 that in 2019 created a subsidiary known as OpenAI Global LLC, which is a capped profit company. The idea is somewhat similar to how Mozilla is a nonprofit and it has a for-profit subsidiary that operates Firefox and other products. What this does is it lets OpenAI take investments that pay a return instead of just grants, and then use that extra money to pay higher salaries and attract more talent. So it has got a for-profit company, but it's capped on profits to reduce the profit motivation. It was kind of a half step from being totally nonprofit, where investors would not receive any money back. It would be basically donations, to saying, yeah, we'll give you some money back, but you can only receive 100 times your investment, which, that sounds pretty great. But to some investors on a longer timeline, they want unlimited returns on their investment, right? They want dividends forever. So this was a half step to say, we'll give you something back for your investment, but we don't want the profit motivation to overwhelm us. That means not everybody who might otherwise want to invest in OpenAI is going to do it. Microsoft took the opportunity and invested more than $13 billion over multiple investment rounds in exchange for getting not only the capped profits, but also preferred access to OpenAI's newest models. So when a new model comes out, Microsoft gets it for an exclusive amount of time or gets unlimited access or something like that. Microsoft also has 49% ownership in the for-profit LLC. Doesn't own the parent company, but it has a big stake, not a majority stake, but a big stake in the for-profit LLC. Reportedly, there's also a clause in the agreement that would cut off Microsoft's preferred access if OpenAI develops some definition of superintelligence. And it's unclear what that definition would be. A lot of reports were saying OpenAI was going to just declare superintelligence as leverage to get Microsoft to agree to a new deal. Now, while the capped profit structure helped increase investment, OpenAI now needs more cash than that provides if it wants to keep growing. So it would like to restructure to get rid of the cap on profits to investors. That would not only attract a wider number of investors, but it would also make it easier to list public stock, which is another way to attract more investors. The current plan is to restructure the subsidiary to be a public benefit corporation. So this is another half step. No limit on profits for investors, but a public benefit corporation is a type of corporation that has something in its charter that says we are committed to some kind of public benefit as a priority above just profits for shareholders. So if you've ever heard, like, we have a fiduciary responsibility to returning maximized profits to shareholders, a public benefit company says, no, we don't. That is a priority, but it's not the biggest priority. And it would remains to be seen what OpenAI would write into this, but it'd probably be something like making sure that superintelligence is safe and all of that sort of thing. That is in the charter of the nonprofit that is the owner of the subsidiary now. A public benefit corporation is still for profit. It does not cap investor returns. And there are lots of examples of this. This isn't a new thing. Patagonia, Warby Parker, Kickstarter, the King Arthur Baking Company, they make flour. Those are all examples of public benefit companies. To do all that, though, OpenAI needs Microsoft, 49% owner of the subsidiary, to agree to restructure its agreement. And that brings us to the news from Thursday. So I hand it back to you, Jason and Huyen.
Okay, thank you for handing it back. It's now in my hand, and that's the noise that signifies. So Thursday, which is at the time of this recording yesterday, OpenAI and Microsoft announced that they have signed a non-binding memorandum of understanding for a deal to restructure. So sounds like they've got a plan, but there's still a ways to go on this. OpenAI's nonprofit parent company would remain and would have control over the subsidiary, as well as more than $100 billion stake in the public benefit company, which itself is estimated to end up being at least 20%, let's say. There are no details on what they agreed on, at least not yet. One can imagine Microsoft gets continued preferred access, superintelligence or not. So I guess maybe that clause, I don't know if it disappears or fizzles away, and but who knows? I mean, how do you even define superintelligence? That's a bigger question. And OpenAI gets the freedom to use other cloud providers other than Azure, Microsoft's Azure. So after this deal is finalized, OpenAI is going to need to get regulatory approval and end a court case against the restructuring that was brought by Elon Musk. And we can talk about that a little bit as well. But that's a lot. When? Where do you want to start? What's on your mind given all of this so far?
I mean, there's a lot here. And to be honest, I think until listening to Tom's segment, I didn't exactly, and I suppose I'm not alone, did not exactly understand the arrangement just basically the structure that OpenAI had and how Microsoft fit in. So it's a lot more clear. So just an engineer, not a finance person, not an executive. So I suppose that I don't know, I feel like I guess to put my cards on the table, I am still just dubious about, I guess, any of the current AI companies and as I understand it, it's just like a layperson, what the idea of the public benefit is, and to kind of reduce the incentives of profit. I maybe as just like someone who's worked in the tech industry, just don't really have a lot of faith in the mechanism of such mechanisms at reducing that profit incentive for the greater good. And so I think my initial reaction just feels it is just a confused, I mean, for me, it just feels like, okay, they need more money for growth. And I question, and certainly that's what they feel they need. Okay. This doesn't seem any more public benefiting to me. I mean, it seems like on the face of it seems like less. I don't know. I guess I'm very skeptical, and I don't know. I would like to. I don't know. It would be nice if AI was being developed very more leaning towards public good rather than profit driven. But as a person who's been living in this space, living around this space, not in it but around it, this just feels like getting just more money for more growth. And I don't really see how this necessarily, other than just literally kneecapping the money that they get, helps that bending away from profit initiative. I don't know. That's my take. But I'm a very skeptical person about this.
I mean, I don't think that you're alone in being skeptical. I think there are a lot of people that are skeptical about just technology and where it stands in the climate, in basically just every aspect of life right now. And the people who stand to gain the most from deals like this, people like Altman and Elon Musk and, the billionaires and the someday trillionaires and everything. It's the scale of everything is so out there that I think a lot of people might look at a deal like this and you hear public benefit, and it kind of seems like the want of a deal like this is to say, see, we're not just doing it for profit. We're doing it for the good of humanity and all these things. But there are so many other things in the world of technology, especially now, that seem to kind of go counter to that kind of altruism sort of, declaration, let's say. It's convenient to say we're altruistic about our efforts and then also be, making billions upon billions of dollars off the technology and the moves that we make. So why are those things often at odds? And that's where the skepticism, I think, comes from. Then you've got someone else who's pretty skeptical, and that's Elon Musk, right? Musk has his court case that I mentioned just briefly a little bit ago that really has driven a large part of this, right? Musk named Microsoft in his lawsuit, specifically stating that the OpenAI Microsoft partnership is stifling competition. The deal's been scrutinized, courts, regulators taking a look at this, and it really remains to be seen if these new terms actually will end up clearing a path for the reorganization that OpenAI is talking about. If it actually satisfies the courts and regulators, or if Musk's antitrust claims will impact or maybe even derail this deal. Because, I think to this end, this still needs to be accepted, or it still needs to be cleared. And so we've got their plan for a restructure. Does it satisfy all the other, aspects of this kind of messy situation that these companies find themselves in? And that still remains to be seen.
My bad. Remind me, was Elon Musk, I mean, it's been so many years and there's been so much like kind of back and forth. Of course, Elon Musk owns many companies. So it's kind of hard to keep track. He was instrumental in the founding of OpenAI. Is that correct? That's my memory.
Very, very early on.
Very early on.
He said, and it's hard, it's really hard to say exactly what his motivation and intention is, because he said that very early on, the company that he invested in was making promises about its business staying in its kind of, the example that they're talking about now, really being a public benefit thing, not being devised or created to make one person rich. Meanwhile, this is coming from Elon Musk, who has a completely separate life that is absolutely related to what he's kind of wagging his fingers at OpenAI for. So it's really kind of confusing to see that coming from a person like Musk in this situation. But early on, he was pretty instrumental to it, or at least working there from almost the beginning with Altman.
It's so funny because I think as a technologist, I do really love my job. Like in general, I love technology. I love my job. I love the promise of technology. And I think if I look back, I think to give people credit, a lot of people have like a great idea and maybe a great technical idea that they would like to bring to life to help out society. Mm-hmm. And certainly the way that kind of our kind of socioeconomic world works, investment. Like I think so many times, like, man, if someone gave like this medical research company like X billion dollars, like wouldn't the world be better?
Change the world.
Yeah. Like, and so like, I can see that wish is the attempt of some of these more complex structures, which I don't really understand, seems to be to fulfill those kind of wishes. Yeah. Like, okay, you need money. Unfortunately, in this world, people kind of like to get money back. So invest money, but with some profit back. So that's fair. Mm-hmm. So given that is the world we live in, this feels like in the face of it, a very like, practical tool. But it's so funny because I think, like Patagonia, like I love Patagonia, King Arthur Baking Company. Yes, I have who knew? Have your things. Yeah. It's so interesting though, because the way the world, the sphere that OpenAI operates in feels like the most competitive and the most, hey, grab your attention and figure it, like the most like rapidly monetizing, the most like intensely competitive sphere. And that almost seems to run, and I know again, competition is good. Like I know like our almost like the base precept is that competition breeds more innovation and more opportunity. But at the same time, because OpenAI, even if you say like that their beating heart is still for public benefit, they're operating in a space with like everybody else, like with everyone else.
Amounts of money,
massive amounts of money, and other companies that, as I understand it, do not have this, anti-fiduciary responsibility, more of a public benefit bent. And so I can't help but feel like you're playing in the wrong pool, or that, I don't know, just something like that. So I think it's interesting, and I don't know. I'm curious whether even if they do manage to get this restructure through, like, I guess what moves they'll make to continue to be for the public benefit, or whether we can just all be skeptics and be like, no, it's all the same.
I think probably the people who are really skeptical will continue being skeptical, which is a sign of the times.
It's a sign of the times. Is it? That's a song. Okay.
It is now.
It is now. All right. Well, I guess we'll see how it shakes out. But we want to take some time because we want to recognize that DTNS is made possible by you, the listener. And we want to thank people that make DTNS possible, like Jim Hart, Mike Akins, Norm Fazekas. And we want to welcome new patrons, Joe, Mirrors of Time, and Kenton. And we want to thank David for a raise.
Thanks for the raise.
Thank you.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay. And you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you only get to pick two. What if you could have all three? You can with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast hyperscaler for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload for less. Compared with other clouds, OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Try OCI for free at oracle.com/dailytech. oracle.com/dailytech.
Trimble is the technology company that connects your physical and digital worlds so industries like transportation and geospatial can get hard work done faster than ever. Every day brings new challenges, decisions, adjustments, real-time moments that matter. With Trimble on your team, you're in command of purpose-built tech ecosystems and connected solutions that keep work flowing end to end. Turn data points into decision points, deadlines into finish lines, and possibilities into profits. Check out what Trimble can do for you at Trimble.com. Because with Trimble, you can act smarter, move faster, and lead with confidence. Trimble, Confidence at every turn.
Banking with Capital One helps you keep more money in your wallet with no fees or minimums on checking accounts and no overdraft fees. Just ask the Capital One bank guy. It's pretty much all he talks about, in a good way. He'd also tell you that this podcast is his favorite podcast, too. Aw, really? Thanks, Capital One bank guy. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
All right, there's more we need to know today. Let's get to the briefs.
All right, well, let's round up a few Apple stories related to the hardware announcements from earlier this week. Apple has pushed back the launch of the iPhone Air in China as government approval is sought for the embedded SIM in the device. China's 3 major carriers have all announced eSIM support, but regulatory approval is still needed before the phone can be sold in the country. All other iPhone 17s will be sold in the country with no delay. Apple's new hypertension notification feature, announced with the Apple Watch Series 11 and Ultra 3, just received FDA clearance in the US. This paves the way for its official launch next week in over 150 countries and regions worldwide. And finally, if you were wondering why Apple's polishing cloth didn't list the iPhone 17 series in its compatibility box on the Apple product page, worry no more. The fabric cloth is now fully compatible.
So did they roll out an OTA to the cloth?
An OTA to the cloth. Yes, exactly. Firmware update, software update, clothware update.
Clothware. I mean, it's just a cloth. It's a very small cloth, but if you really wanted to and you were cold at night, you could use it as a blanket. It's a tiny little blanket. It's compatible with your bed. It's compatible with everything. So at least there's that. And hypertension, you had to know, it was probably going to clear sooner rather than later. So I guess it's just good news that it's cleared.
That's wonderful.
And not delaying the release of the watch here in the U.S. So, and then I think eSIM only, boo. Although with the Air, maybe that makes sense because it's such a thin device, maybe that's the trade-off. But
we ain't got no room for things like, such chunky things as SIM cards, please.
Ports that you have to slide out and in, that would add 0.02 millimeters to the design, and we can't have that.
Such a waste of space.
Well, we were talking a little bit about Microsoft a few minutes ago. Microsoft, in unrelated news, avoided an EU fine by agreeing to fully separate its Teams app from Office 365 packages for at least the next 7 years. Now, this resolves a European antitrust investigation that stems all the way back to 2020. It was a complaint from Slack about anti-competitive bundling in the business collaboration software markets. They were saying you're bundling these things. It's unfair to competition, apps like ours. Microsoft worked closely with the EU to negotiate these changes, like the unbundling of Teams, also improving interoperability. And ultimately, this has satisfied regulators, and it, at the end of the day, allowed Microsoft to avoid formal penalties. I feel like we don't really see this that often. The EU maintains its authority to impose fines if needed, but also stated that this decision can serve as an example of resolving issues through negotiation instead of through penalties. So, yeah, it's a little different. Don't normally see it work out that way.
I feel like there's a joke in here. And yes, I totally am for these kinds of cases and questioning these kind of my business practices. There's a joke in here about is bundling Teams inside of Office 365 really anti-competitive, or is it a self-own? I don't know, but yes. Okay. Anyway, well, Mastodon is launching quote posts next week, letting users add comments to other posters' posts using a new quote option that's accessible with the repost button. So Mastodon had originally chosen not to offer this feature due to concerns around harassment, but has used feedback from users to change its course. bots. Users can control who may quote them and can also disable quoting by post or remove their own content from someone else's quote. The new feature will appear within the user preference setting in the 4.5 update.
Yeah. Mastodon showing what it's, showing an example of giving the user the ability and control on a pretty granular level as far as that's concerned. So I think that's good news. People want the feature. If the feature can be used for not so savory things, at least give people the ability to control it in a way that enables them to, have control of it. So,
100% approve.
Yeah, totally. Albania has appointed an AI-powered bot named Dela. They referred to the bot as a she, by the way, but I will not do that here because it's a robot. I'm sorry. As its new minister for public procurement, the goal of enlisting an AI bot for the role is to eliminate corruption from government contracts. Now, Prime Minister Edi Rama said the bot is impervious to bribes and to intimidation, and it'll help make Albania, quote, a country where public tenders are 100% free of corruption, end quote. This is not Dela's. I really got to figure out how to pronounce the bot's name. Dela's first task in the government. They had launched earlier this year Dela, an earlier version of Dela, as a virtual assistant on the state platform that was involved with helping citizens access official documents. So the way this news was reported on kind of makes it seem like it's an official, it's an official title, but it's a chat bot. I don't know. It's very, very strange.
Okay. So it's more of like giving, I don't know, being in a sweet way, giving like a kid like a badge, like Mayor Day kind of thing.
Here, you wear this badge, pin it on your chest. There you go.
Yeah, but
honorary.
Dela is just a chatbot.
Yeah, pretty much.
I also feel like it's very dangerous because AI chatbots are not at this point sentient beings with feelings and motivations. I feel it's very hazardous to say that it cannot be bribed or intimidated and that it's corruption free. I do believe that because these are still processes that actually do have some sense. I mean, and maybe not, I don't know. I mean, this is not fair because maybe a little unfair because I don't know what the chatbots like underlying technology is, but even chatbots have a sense of trying to maximize their efficiency. There's like famously, of course, like the OpenAI ChatGPT is trying to please its users. Mm-hmm. So just to say that even if the bot is not sentient enough to be bribed, there are ways to manipulate a piece of software. So I just want to, I feel like
at the end of the day, these are created by humans.
Yes. Yes.
And I think sometimes that gets lost in the discussion. It's like, the bot has a mind of its own. No, it doesn't. No. Everything that is in there was either, trained from data that a human chose to put in there. Like the human involvement is 100% of the thing. If this was created by a robot that was created by a robot that was created by a robot that had nothing to do, you know what I mean? Then maybe you'd get to a point to where you could say that human corruption takes no place. And I'm not saying that it is corrupt. I'm just saying I totally agree with you. Making the statement and saying it's completely impervious is pretty silly. No. You might believe that, and that might, be the plan, but, there's still a lot of human involvement on these things, and that can lead to a whole lot of unintentional things that you don't want.
Yeah. I just wonder if even though it's not sentient, you could still social engineer a bot. I feel like that. I wonder if that's true. So someone who knows better than me, tell me. Yeah. Okay. Well, Sony launched the Xperia 10. Is it did we say 7 or V1?
I was trying to figure that one out. Xperia 10 VII or Xperia 10 7. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say the Roman numerals out loud, and if that's very silly, I apologize. But Sony launched the Xperia 10 VII, a mid-range Android smartphone with a camera bar design that's somewhat reminiscent of the Google Pixel and the latest iPhone 17s. It's a stark change from the previous Xperia phones that had the camera offset to one side. It features a fancy turquoise color option along with the usual white and black alternatives, some chunky and asymmetrical bezels, and a boxier 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio, and a side-mounted camera shutter button. Otherwise, a pretty standard mid-range device on sale September 19th in the UK and Europe for around €449, 399 British pounds sterling.
So Pixel has had a thing going with their camera bar thing for a while, and now it's starting to crop up in more devices. And in this case, kind of like the long pill shaped camera bar, very similar although a lot narrower. If you see the pictures of it, to Pixel.
It's pretty attractive because the bar blends into the color in the back. Yeah. So it's definitely distinctive. It's pretty cute, I think.
Yeah, but those bezels on the front, I don't mind thick bezels. I'm okay with thick bezels. Just make them symmetrical. When they're asymmetrical, unless there's a function, and there might actually be a speaker embedded in the bezel, but still, it never looks good to my eyes when they're asymmetrical.
Amen. Yep.
So yeah. Finally, a teaser of the upcoming sequel to the Super Mario Brothers movie was shown during Nintendo Direct, officially titled Super Mario Galaxy Movie. It is set to debut in theaters April 3rd, 2026, next year. The film's original cast, of course, returning for the follow-up, and you better believe they will, because the first movie was the top, or at least one of the top animated films ever made, $1.36 billion grossed to date. So, yeah, probably going to do okay on that one. And Mario Galaxy is a strong, sub-franchise of the Mario world, so there you go.
All right. Well, do you need a snazzy gift for a coworker or colleague? We have dozens of ideas at dailytechnewsshow.com/store. Get a mug, a t-shirt, a mouse pad, all with our new DTNS logo. They're great gifts and a great way to support the show.
Banking with Capital One helps you keep more money in your wallet with no fees or minimums on checking accounts and no overdraft fees. Just ask the Capital One bank guy. It's pretty much all he talks about, in a good way. He'd also tell you that this podcast is his favorite podcast, too. Ah, really? Thanks, Capital One bank guy. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
Most people overpay for car insurance. Not because they're careless, but because switching feels like too much hassle. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/acast today.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Anon Jr. posted on our Patreon about the news that Microsoft will no longer charge a fee for listing in the Microsoft Store, but instead just verifying ID.
Yeah, Anon Jr. writes, no fee is nice in one sense, as that's one less barrier to entry for real developers. Not so nice, as that's one less barrier to entry for junk trying to grab a buck from the unaware or inattentive. The trick seems to be in finding the right sort of barriers to junk that doesn't keep out genuine developers. Likewise, the cut or VIG, depending on your perspective, for handling transactions certainly feels onerous for the devs, but the servers and bandwidth for the App Store still cost money. Should the stores be a loss leader, or should there be some remuneration for providing a place that makes finding a given app easier and updating said app earlier? Said app easier. So yeah, thanks, Anna, because we covered yesterday how, Tom and I covered yesterday some of the Microsoft app store changes with, eliminating the registration fee in return for just verifying ID, and that they would be covering, I believe, signing and hosting costs. So yeah, I feel like we keep hovering around this subject, Jason. On our show.
Totally. That was going to be my kind of follow up for you, because obviously I wasn't there for the discussion yesterday, so maybe you kind of touched on it, but didn't Google announce kind of the opposite, that they're now going to be charging fees for this thing?
Not
for everybody, but for most.
Not for everybody, or at least the ID verification and things. And I think I've brought up, not necessarily personally, but that also, so to contrast this yet again, like for example, for the iOS or the App Store, the Apple version, you have to just register $99 as for a developer, and I think it's larger even for small businesses. So no, I mean that's a really good point, Anon Jr. That no, and that's really fair. That like things cost money, and there's a fair argument there that given that Microsoft is giving you this platform and maintaining this platform, that a cut might seem onerous, but it also just might be just helping them pay the bills. I have mixed feelings because yes, for sure. This is just the same tug of war that we have, as Android people, is that because the platform was so open and free in many ways for such a long time, that attracted a lot of people that wanted to tinker and that wanted to be, had that techie entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to create different ideas for different reasons. But that, it opens the way for a lot of bad actors, people that just want to make a buck, people that want to just, bloat the apps, bloat any store with malware. So I don't know. I don't actually, I think what I'm trying to say is I don't think there's a good answer, because it seems like every app store, when they try to make a move for the betterment of either their customers or themselves, they peeve somebody off, or they open a door that's hard to close.
They're dealing with a lot of people, and a lot of, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how many apps are in the Play Store, for example, but it's definitely millions. Is it close to billion? I honestly don't know. Probably not close to billions, but we're talking about a lot of people, a lot of developers who are directly impacted. So you are going to have a mixture of perspectives on this. And I don't think there is such a thing as making everybody happy, but hopefully you justify why you're doing what you're doing. I think at the end of the day, that's needed. So, well, what are you thinking about? If you've got insight into this story or others that we've talked about or haven't talked about, you can share it with us. feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Thanks again to Anon Jr. for contributing to today's show. Thank you, of course, to Tom for coming in a little bit earlier. Thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. You can keep us in business by becoming a patron at patreon.com/DTNS.
This week's episodes of Daily Tech News Show were created by the following people: host, producer, and writer Tom Merritt, host and writer Jason Howell, co-host Sarah Lane, co-host Rob Dunwood, co-host Wentway Dow, producer Anthony Lemos, producer Roger Chang, editor Hammond Chamberlain, editor Victor Bognot, science correspondent Dr. Nikki Ackermans, social media producer and moderator Zoe Detterding. Our mods: Beatmaster, W. Scottus1, BioCow, Captain Kipper, Steve Godorama, Paul Reese, Matthew J. Stevens, a.k.a. Gadget Virtuoso, and J.D. Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music provided by Martin Bell and Dan Luters. Art by Len Peralta. Acast ad support from Tatiana Matias. Patreon support from Bobby Wagner. Our guest this week was Andy Beach, and thanks to all our patrons who make the show possible.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Trimble is the technology company that connects your physical and digital worlds, so industries like transportation and geospatial can get hard work done faster than ever. Every day brings new challenges, decisions, adjustments, real-time moments that matter. With Trimble on your team, you're in command of purpose-built tech ecosystems and connected solutions that keep work flowing end to end. Turn data points into decision points, deadlines into finish lines, and possibilities into profits. Check out what Trimble can do for you at Trimble.com. Because with Trimble, you can act smarter, move faster, and lead with confidence. Trimble, confidence at every turn.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.